Hello there, I'm Leslie. The practice that we're about to do is focused on creating awareness in the upper body, exploring our shoulder capacity, as well as doing a little bit of focused wrist work. And all of this will help support poses where we're bearing weight like table, plank, and downward facing dog. You're gonna want a strap and some blocks to help with this practice. Let's get started. Just start in a comfortable standing position with your strap held in both hands at shoulder height, maybe a little bit wider than your shoulders are broad. Grip tight and give it a good pull to create some tension. You might have straight elbows or a gentle bend. And keeping that pull, start to reach your arms up overhead and then back down to shoulder height. We're gonna do this a number of times to help warm the whole area up, but also while you're doing this, start to become aware of kind of the rest of your upper body. So you might notice in yourself, and I'm gonna show an exaggerated version, you might notice that your ribs wanna lift as you lift your arms up. So see if you can keep your ribs settled down and integrated into your body. Maybe even thinking of pressing the back of your ribs full behind you. You might also notice an urge for your head to poke out forwards like you are a pigeon. So if you're putting your awareness there, gently scoop your chin in and press up and back with the crown of your head. So let's try 3 more. Strongest grip, strongest pull, and keeping your head, shoulders, and upper back and ribs in a nice stacked cylinder. All right, let's switch gears. Bring your strap behind you. Same idea, maybe a little bit wider than shoulder distance apart. With your palms facing behind, grip tight, and start to lift your arms up behind you and then lower. And one of the same things might be happening. Your head might want to poke out in front of you, so be aware of that. You might also notice an urge for your entire arm bone to start rolling forward and coming towards your collarbone. So see if you can keep the head of your arm bone just right where it started, snugged into its socket or your shoulder girdle. Try 1 or 2 more like this, warming up the same general area, but a few different muscles. And let's let that go. Keep your strap handy, we'll use it again. Bring all of your fingertips together and touch your own shoulders. I'm gonna turn around so you can view my shoulder blades. But keeping that little touch there, start to trace a big circle wide, and then point your elbows forward on either side of your forehead. And then squeeze them in like you're tucking each elbow into the opposite back pocket. So the direction that your elbows are pointing while you go through this funny little elbow angel mimics the direction that your shoulder blades are rotating. So you might be able to see some of that action happening on my back, or you might be able to feel some of that action in your own body. 1 more time to lift. And then lower. Last action with the strap here. Bring it back up in your fists to shoulder height. Put a little pull on it. And just notice that you could shrug your shoulders, making a little turtleneck out of your own muscles. And that you could lower your shoulders, sticking your neck out long like a turtle, feeling pretty safe. Try that a couple of times. And then stay with that gentle drop down so that your ears have lots of space on either side of your neck. Invigorate the pull a little bit more, and without bending your elbows at all or moving through your spine, pull your arms back in space and feel your shoulder blades pinch together And then push your knuckles forward in space. Feel your shoulder blades broaden. I'm going to turn again so you can follow along and kind of imagine you could see the same action on your own back that I'm showing here. This is one benefit of having tattoos in that area. You can really see the squish of those figures. When you pull the head of your arm bones back and squeeze your shoulder blades together, that's called retraction. And when you push them forward, that's called protraction. One more time. And then let it go. All right, let's get more of our bodies warmed up, and we'll bring back some awareness of those same shoulder capacities in some poses that you probably already know. Alrighty. Get your blocks ready, setting them up about shoulder distance apart towards the top of your mat. Stand just behind or between them. Settle into your heels. When you feel an inhale about to start, reach your arms wide and high. Soften your knees and fold down with your exhale, touching your blocks. Step your left foot back. Find your nice hip distance lunge stance and long. Settle into both feet. And with a light touch into your hands, think of that same action of drawing the head of your arm bones away from your ears for a long neck. And then scoop your chin in, pressing up and back with the back of your head. Add a little extra sauce for your lower body. Pull your legs towards each other. Let's take a breath here in our low lunge. And then nice and easy, step forward, switch, left foot forward, right foot back. Settle into your lower body stance. Let's be a bit more dramatic with our shoulders this time. Do a full shoulder roll. Moving both your shoulder blades and the head of your arm bones, kind of clearing out in the corners of your joints. And then settle in with a push down. And draw your arm bones away from your ears. Scoop your chin in. Imagine reaching the top of your head forward like you're doing a little headbutt. One more breath. From here, step forward. Set your blocks aside. And then crawl right down onto all fours, hands and knees. Let's do a little bit of weight bearing here. Come to a knee plank. Walking your knees back just far enough that you can make a long straight line from your shoulders through your hips to your knees. Start to press down into your mat with your fingerprints. You might imagine that you have sticky tree frog fingertips and they're suctioning down to the ground. Keeping those spots where they are, pull them towards center and allow the very center of your palm to dome up gently. Keeping this grip on the ground, imagine you have two big jar lids under your hands. Turn the left one, lefty-loosey. Turn the right one, righty-tighty. Again, without letting your hands actually move. Keeping all of that, now pull your hands apart as if you could stretch your mat to be wider. With all the intensity of your tree frog fingers, your jar lids twisting, and your hands pulling apart, you might start to experience a little bit of postural tremors, some shaking that tells you your muscles are trying hard. Let's hold for one more breath. And then nice and easy, lower your whole front body down to the ground. Take some weight out of your wrists. Reach your hands back down by your sides, palms up. Start by pointing your toes and settling your legs hip distance apart. We're going to try a back bend. In order to root our back bend in stability and sturdiness, firm your legs and bum, and imagine reaching your pubic bone towards or into the floor. Let's start with long neck. So give your shoulders a few rolls here. And then set the head of your arm bone up away from the floor, but down away from your ear. So that long neck feeling again. Energize the length of your arms, and keeping your elbows straight, lift your arms towards the ceiling. Think of drawing your thumb tips in towards one another, again without bending your elbows. And keeping all of that intensity, gently lift your heart a little further higher. Let's stay for 3 breaths. Reaching back through fingertips and toe tips, forward through the top of your head. On an exhale, soften back down. You might turn your cheek to one side or make a platform for your forehead out of your palms, but wiggle your hips left and right. And then push right up. Let's spend a little bit of time focusing on just our wrists. So come right into table pose, knees under hips, hands under shoulders. And find again that gentle spread through your hands and a firmness in your fingerprints. We're going to do some palm push-ups. In order for these to be effective, we're looking at shoulders over wrists to integrate and interact with this angle where your forearm and your hand make a 90-degree angle. And keep your elbows fully straightened. To do a palm press, lift your thumbs and see if the heel of your palm on both sides can lift up, putting weight into your knuckles where your palm and your fingers meet, and then try to lower back down. If this position is hitting you in the right spot, keep going, aiming for a slow, controlled lift and a slow, controlled lower, with straight elbows, shoulders over wrists the whole time. If you're finding that it's not happening, or you need to do one hand and then the other, or you need to hop, or your elbows are bending, or you're tempted to use your thumbs, that's a good indication that you can deload. Take your knees further forward and try from there. You'll notice that you have more of your body weight in your lower body, which will make the action more possible. The reverse is true. If you're just like pumping them out, no big deal, then you can take your knees back in space, feeling that there's now more load in your hands, and try, a few palm lifts from this position. I'm pretty sure I've seen someone do it from plank. So there's lots to progress towards in this capacity. For wherever you're working, let's try a couple more, and then we'll finish on an extra slow one all together. So no matter where your knees are, lift the heel of your palm as high as they're going to lift. Press into your fingerprints, and let's lower for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and land. And now just for a little bit of variety, flip onto the backs of your hands, again, going into your lower body as much as is needed. My wrists are not a huge fan of this shape because I don't do it very often, so you can see I'm really back in my knees. Let's do a little bit more dedicated work. For this one, I want to give a little bit more leeway. Maybe you don't have to be so strict about keeping your shoulders over top of your wrists. So rather than scooching your knees forward to deload, what I would do is just lean back so that your shoulders are behind your wrists by a little ways. So you'll soon know why you might want to do that. Let's just get into it. All right. With your elbows strictly straight, lift your index fingers, and start to tap as fast as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then lift your middle fingers, same thing. Tap, tap, tap. As fast as you can, as high as you can. And then ring fingers, lift. Tap, 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 tap. Be aware of your elbows wanting to bend. You can see my face is really trying to help me right now. Woo! And then pinky fingers, lift, and tap, tap, tap. Okay. Keep the intensity of your hands with fingers straight and strong, elbows straight and strong, and try to peel your palms off the floor. They could be lifted by just a millimeter. That's valid. You don't have to lift them high. And we're going to hold this shape for about 30 seconds. Revisit your straight elbows. Revisit your straight fingers. Pull your palms up, leaving the heel of your palm down. Keep breathing. Last breath. And then completely come up into a kneeling position. Reach your arms forward like a zombie. Start to curl all of your fingers in. Wrap your thumbs around the outside. Bend your elbows to 90 degrees and your wrists to push your knuckles forward like you are an old-timey Irish knuckle boxer. Keep that squeeze in your fists and strongly curl your knuckles down. You might admire your own Popeye muscles right there while you're at it. Keep the shape of your arms. Unfurl your thumbs, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, and pull the back of your hands as if they want to paste themselves to your forearm. Hold this. Curl everything in, thumbs on the outside, rock your knuckles forward. Last breath like this. And then shake it out a little bit. Remember that protraction, retraction we did standing? Now we're going to try it with a little bit of load. So come back into your table pose. Hopefully hands and elbows and wrists are feeling fairly warm. Put on your tree frog fingertips. And then try pushing from the depths of your armpits down the length of your arm into your hand, broadening your shoulder blades apart from one another. Now, without bending your elbows, sink your heart down, squeezing your shoulder blades together. Try a few of these movements, just practicing the elbow straight action while your shoulder blades wrap towards one another and then apart from one another. If you want to challenge this action, what I suggest that you do is take your knees back into a knee plank and try a few of these scapula or shoulder blade pushes. Or you could even tuck your toes, lift your knees, and try keeping everything else very still except for your shoulder blades, moving around the corners of your ribs. Alrighty. If your knees are up, go ahead, bring them down. And let's try some other poses to give our hands a little bit of a break. So from high kneeling, step your right foot forward and use your front thigh to give your back foot a little space, tuck your toes, and slowly ease yourself up to your high lunge, bringing your shoulders to stack over your hips. Nice and wide, swim your arms up, and turn your palms to face one another as they arrive in your overhead reach. Pull your feet in and firm the sides of your bum to help create stability for your lower body. And with your arms overhead like this, check in with how it feels around your neck. Notice that you have the capacity to put on your meat turtleneck or to take it off and stick your vulnerable turtleneck out. And because we're not bearing weight on our hands here, there's no strong priority to create a particular shape. See if you can let your shoulders rest a little bit. If the tension is quite strong, know that you can widen your arms or soften the bend of your elbows. So when the tension's really high, you might be making more of a goalpost shape. Let's try one more breath up here in our high lunge. And then come back down the way we rose up, hands to thigh, slowly lower your back knee down, and switch, left foot forward. Same thing, use your front thigh to ease your way up. As you bring your shoulders back over your hips, know that it's fine to bend your back knee, and make that big swoop out and up. Within the kind of boundaries of your own tolerance for tension, straighten your elbows, hug your arms in. With your palms rotating to look at each other, drive your thumb tips back behind you. Harken back to the first thing we did. When you go to lift your arms up, Notice if your ribs are lifting, settle them down. Notice if your head is poking out, scoop your chin in and press up and back with the back of your head. So thumb tips and the top back of your head reaching in the same direction. Let's go for one more breath, just like this. And then touch back down, gingerly lower your knee down, and come into table pose again. We're going to get a little bit more detailed about our lowering down from plank, but let's practice in table first. It'll be a bit awkward, but you'll get the idea. Turn on your tree frog fingertips, and without actually moving your hands, keeping them stuck where they are, make that lefty-loosey anti-clockwise jar opening, and that righty-tighty clockwise jar tightening for the left and the right. And then add the pull apart feeling. Press down from your armpits into your palms to separate your shoulder blades. Just to remind your body what that's like without bending your elbows, sink your ribs down, shoulder blades together, press back up, shoulder blades broad. Go 2 more. Imagine as you're doing this that your neck is lengthening and more space is coming below your ears, from ears to shoulders. All right, let's practice coordinating elbow bend with that shoulder blade action. So stay with the intensity in your hands. Stay with the breadth across your upper back, so shoulder blades far apart. And first, try bending your elbows without letting your shoulder blades come together. Do that twice, keeping your shoulder blades really far apart from each other. Big broad space across your upper back. Now we're going to coordinate the elbow bend with the shoulder blade movement. So try once again with your jar lids, your pull apart. First, bending your elbows. Then let your shoulder blades squeeze together as your nose tip or your forehead comes close to the floor. To reverse, all at once, straighten your elbows, broaden your shoulder blades. Let's try that twice more, coordinating those 2 parts of this movement. Elbows first, then shoulder blades join in, pinching together. On the way up, everything at once. Last one to practice. Take a little wrist break, curling your fingers in, thumbs on the outside. Press your knuckles down, bend your elbows back to your Popeye stance. We're going to return to plank. You can make it a knee plank or a toe plank. We're going to practice lowering down with that coordinated elbow bend and shoulder blade shift. Okay? Shake your wrists out a little bit and find your plank for today. Personally, I'm sticking with knee plank. Start in a sturdy plank with strong active arms, a long curling tail towards the back of your knees, and a broad upper back. Add a little bit of awareness to your neck, so let your arm bones come away from your ears, long neck. Turn on your jar lids, pull your mat apart. We're going to do 3 times down and up. So with broad shoulder blades, bend your elbows, then let your shoulder blades come together and coordinate both as you push back up. Twice more at your own pace. Slower is harder, but slower is also more meaningful. There's more to notice. This time as you come down, let your front body land. Straighten your legs, and if your hands have landed up under your shoulders, glide them back. With just a light touch under your hands, similarly to our locust pose, energize the length of your legs, press your pubic bone into the floor, prepare with a shoulder roll, and then set the head of your arm bones away from the ground and away from your ears. Gently draw your elbows in, and without really pushing into your hands at all, still a very light touch on your hands, lift your chest. We're going to be here in cobra for another few moments. With that same jar lid turn, think of tucking each elbow into the opposite back pocket and reach your elbows towards your feet, dragging your whole body with the traction of your hands pulling. Scoop your chin in, return to your headbutt. Take a couple of breaths here in this very fired up baby cobra. And then soften down. Give your hips a little wiggle. Press right up. Take a moment to wag your tail or move your spine a bit freely. We're going to return to the floor in a moment. Let's get into what the shoulders are doing in downward dog. We'll start with dog at the wall. Approach a slice of wall and set your hands at about elbow height. Keeping your index fingers pointing straight up and your hands shoulder distance apart. Step back until your arms are pretty long. Turn on the same actions in your hands here that you've been using in table, plank, and lowering down. Maybe your knees have a bend in them. Think of perking your tail gently up. And then press strongly through the length of your arms, allowing your chest to settle down to the same level as your hands and maybe your hips. With your active hands, in this situation, explore the option to shrug your shoulders or to unshrug your shoulders. We're in a low load position here. There's not a lot of weight bearing in our hands, so you've got a bit more freedom to do what you want. And then walk your feet up towards your hands. Give your knuckles a little circle. When we come down into the weight-bearing downward dog on the floor, what I'm going to suggest is a little bit more of a shoulder shrug to resist gravity and push against the floor and against gravity. So let's start from all fours and take your hands a little further than they would be right underneath your shoulders. Go outer shoulder distance apart. Turn on your sticky tree frog finger pads, gripping the mat strong. And then wrap your elbows towards each other. We've really been doing the mat pull apart a lot today, but in this situation, let your elbows wrap in. Walk your knees a bit further back and tuck your toes under. Before we go for the full action, just hover your knees off the ground and get used to the feeling of pushing down from your armpits into your palms. So you might let your shoulders sink down your back and then hug your elbows in and push, letting your shoulders shrug up a little bit. Let's do that once more. Soften, wrap your elbows in and push. Then lift your hips up high, letting your knees straighten some or all of the way. That'll depend on you. Maybe letting your heels sink a tiny bit. Take a couple of breaths to revisit the option to shoulder shrug. Revisit the intensity of your grippy hands on the ground. Last breath. And then come on down, knees to the floor. Switch and lay down on your back. One last classic and common pose that you'll find in a lot of yoga classes is bridge. And it's got that same arm shape that we were playing with at the beginning of class when we were lifting our arms behind us. Start with bent elbows tucked into your waist and your fingertips pointing at the ceiling. Set your feet hip distance apart and a little ways down from your hips. Gently tuck your chin, not a strong tuck, but a gentle tuck, and start to press down with the back of your head and the back of your upper arms. Extend that press down to your heels, and then scoop your tail towards the back of your knees and lift your hips. Doesn't have to be a big lift. We'll focus on the action rather than the intensity of the shape from the outside. Pull with your heels. Maybe that drags your knees a little ways forward. And with the press down through all of your foundation points, you might even tuck your arms a little bit underneath your body. Keep driving down with the back of your shoulders, the back of your upper arms, the back of your head. Keeping the pull in your heels, try straightening your elbows, putting your palms to the floor and extending the press through your forearms and through your palms. Take one more breath here in bridge. To exit, rebend your elbows, untuck your arms from beneath you, and slowly lay your spine down. A nice, easy landing. From here, take your arms to shoulder level and drop the back of your arms to the floor, framing your head like a goalpost or a cactus. Press down with the back of your arms and down with the back of your head. And nice and easy, rock your knees to the right and left a couple of times. And give yourself a little chance to wind down. As your knees come up through center again, give yourself a hug, wrapping any arm on top, and rock your head from side to side. Let your arms unravel. If you're feeling quite nice in your resting position, you're welcome to stay for a little while longer. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to practice with you again soon.